Spartans! Ready your breakfast and eat hearty. But tonight, we dine
nasty.
Welcome in to the 10th episode. Brent, are we at 10 right now?
I think we've hit double digits. I think it's episode 10.
10th episode of the Tonight We Dyn Nasty podcast. Gerard, as always, here with Brent.
How's it going, guys?
And some pretty exciting games in week 4, moving forward to week 5, but also some league news to go over as well this week. And, we'll preview everything as it's going on. As also, we did such a great show during the Thursday night game last week that we decided to do it again. And
we said we weren't going to do this, but we're back at it, watching Thursday night football and recording at the same time.
Not listening to each other talk as we're distracted by the game. Like I'm playing against Will Dissly. Will Dissly just caught a pass. So that's kind of where I could tell I slowed my words there for a little bit because I was trying to figure out who caught the pass. But
luckily for you guys, you get to hear it all, and we will give you a live update for us. But if you listen to this in a couple of days or whenever it is released, it will definitely not be live at the time. So enjoy that.
Yeah. Enjoy it. All right. Before we get started, reviewing week 4, we had a trade go down this week. I think Dominators was listening to the podcast last week. I said that he's going to be my team that's out of the playoffs right now, that's going to make it into the playoffs, and he made a move for a team who's trying to make a push to the playoffs.
Yeah, you definitely called it. Those were the kind of the two teams we highlighted, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two teams we highlighted, and Dominators kind of took your advice and said, you know what, I'm going to make that playoff push. I'm going to try to kind of work on my roster and kind of get some more depth and try to make a push here with acquiring Derrick Henry. And you want to go over the details of the trade?
So he acquires Derrick Henry, a 2020 second, which is Mike's, which is Hackenberger and Fries, and a 2020 third, which belongs to Hackenberger and Fries. And he, in return, sends a first-round pick over that way. I guess initial response, Brent thought that Rob gave up 3 picks just to get Derrick Henry, so we were just talking before we started recording, so I think this is kind of a fresh response for Brent about how the trade.
Yeah, initially I was thinking it was basically 3 draft picks for one player, and so I totally read the trade wrong. But yeah, receiving 2 picks back and getting Derrick Henry for a first round pick, it actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, we were just talking, depending on where Hackenberger and Fries finishes, that second round pick could be a 5-6 kind of top or middle of the pack of the second round. And again, what we've always said, the 2020 class is a deep class, both of wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks. So I think even if you're at the top or the middle of the second round, you're still going to get a good value pick, kind of thinking of the last couple of years.
Well, and I think that also goes into like the 2019 draft, where it didn't seem like there was going to be a ton of depth in that draft, but you see people like Terry McLaurin went in the 4th round in our draft. I guess Andy Isabella isn't doing too much yet, but he was just like a notable person who went in the 2nd round, who had a lot of hype to him.
Deebo Samuel
went in the 2nd round. So, for as much as it kind of looked like it was a weak draft, you still find these people in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round that really come through and can play a role on your team.
I will say with the Derrick Henry, acquiring Derrick Henry, I kind of go back and forth on this guy. Obviously, and I think the league has too. I think he's moved teams probably more than any other player. I think originally you drafted him actually, and then sold him maybe to Tyler, and then Tyler sold him to Mike, and now Mike is selling him to Dominators.
And his value in those 3 trades have been. It was a high value where I got Garoppolo and Thielen for him, and then it was a low value where Tyler got a 3rd round pick and a player, Chester Rogers, and then high value again where Mike's selling him for a 1st round pick.
Yeah. And that first round pick, kind of thinking about where Dominators is at currently. I know both Rob and you feel like Dominators are going to finish strong this year, but kind of thinking about where he's at now, that 2020 first round pick looks like it's going to be a top 4 pick.
Yeah.
And I think just knowing what the class is and knowing who's at the top of that, top of the charts right now, that could be a better value moving forward than Derrick Henry is, even at his current. I don't know if I think he's RB. He's in the top 10 currently, and also I have to give him credit because a lot of people said that Derrick Henry can't catch the ball. He's not going to be used. Whoever they have as their receiving back, old guy Dion Lewis, who's kind of been frustrating for Gerard and I in another league this year.
And he hit the waiver wire in our league this week.
He did hit the waiver wire in our league. But obviously Tennessee has kind of looked at Derrick Henry as becoming that 3-down kind of prototypical. He's going to run and he's going to receive.
They've got an identity this year, and the identity is that they're going to be a ground and pound kind of team. I think last year, you see like LaFleur's offense now, I feel like that kind of fits more of like what the Rams did, where they can spread it out and they can kind of use the run game to balance that. But Tennessee is kind of a team where Mariota needs that strong run game to set up the pass game. His pass game doesn't set up the run game. So I think that they've definitely found an identity and they've stuck to it. Derrick Henry, like you said, he's a top 10 back. He's putting together some pretty solid weeks, and I think that if this continues, I mean, this is not just 4 good weeks. It all started last year, I think week 14, because I believe it was the first week of the playoffs. The joke was if you had Derrick Henry, you weren't playing any meaningful games for his 52 points to count for you in that week 14 matchup against Jacksonville. But now that it's been probably 7 weeks straight of some pretty heavy usage for Derrick Henry, and he's putting up some good numbers, maybe this is the Derrick Henry that everyone's finally been waiting for. And we talked last week about Rob having a lot of versatile players, a lot of third down backs. But if he can have a workhorse and add that to his running back group, then I think that he really stands a chance to take another step forward obviously from 0-4, but he takes a step forward to being more competitive every week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep hounding Dominators for as a trade partner to acquire some running backs, because he kind of looks at, he doesn't want to give up these running backs. He wants to kind of accumulate as many running backs as possible. But I look at his team and I think his running back depth is honestly really good. I mean, we've went over them before, but a lot of like pass catching backs, the Cohens, the Burritas, the James White, TJ Yeldon is on his bench. So a lot of these kind of like PPR, more the pass catching, reception guys.
Yeah, he does have good running back depth, and maybe Brent and I were talking about this, so we decided not to do this segment, but this just brought like the buyers and sellers segment that we just were kind of talking about maybe doing. He could definitely be someone who finds his way back into another second round pick, into another third round pick, potentially packages a receiver and a running back to get back into the first round. For someone who is going into the playoffs and just hits an injury. He can take advantage right there and say, hey, I'll flip you these 2 guys, give me your first round pick, and all of a sudden now he's got a second round pick, maybe two third round picks and a first round pick, and now he can continue to build that wide receiver depth. That's kind of the biggest issue on his team right now. Granted, he's got better wide receiver depth now that he doesn't have Antonio Brown, because if he had Antonio Brown and didn't make that move to get that first round pick last year, he'd be in an even bigger hole right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, he still has some people in his taxi squad too. He's yet to bring up his first round pick and DK Metcalf, who had some solid weeks to begin the year, but has kind of fallen off the last 2 weeks. But again, this is somebody who's going to progress and could find his way into a bench spot and then maybe even a starting roster spot by the end of the season or early next year.
And Keyshawn Johnson is looking really good. He's getting the targets. He's putting up some numbers every week. And in that kind of spread it out offense, there's a lot of opportunity there. But with them picking Akeem Butler, Andy Isabella, and then Keyshawn Johnson, you thought Keyshawn Johnson really didn't have a chance. He's the only one who's put up any fantasy production this year. But then also he's got Alexander Madison, who's looking really good as well over in Minnesota, and we all kind of know Dalvin Cook's injury history, so that could be a chip, that he uses to make a trade either to the Dalvin Cook owner, which is Malf, or maybe if something happens to Dalvin Cook, he can move, like we said, James White or Matt Breida or any one of his other running backs, and he can fill that space with Alexander Madison as well.
Yeah. And on the flip side, Hackenberger and Fries, we've kind of talked about what that 2020 pick would do, but he's accumulating draft picks for next year. I think this is this three?
It's three.
3 in the first round for what we keep calling a heavy deep running back, receiver, quarterback class. So again, he kind of positions himself, and he still has on paper a really good roster. So he could make a push even this year for a solid playoff berth. And you get into the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen. So so this year he might finish strong, and then obviously next year he's going to come out the gate swinging. With 3 picks in the first round.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the. That's kind of the scariest news about this trade. Mike keeps making these trades where he keeps acquiring these first-round picks, and not only is he's just kind of run into some rough luck these first couple weeks, and he's 1-3 right now, but Mike is going to be a playoff team this year, and he's a playoff team who has 2 or 3 2020 first-round picks, so his team is only going to continue to get better in what is a strong 2020 class. So, yeah, it's really scary to think about.
We think about Dynasty League and we talk about kind of thinking long term. It definitely feels like Mike has kind of made that switch of thinking about, okay, how can I not only be competitive this year, but be competitive for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And I would be surprised if Mike takes and makes all of these 3 first round picks. I think that there's definitely the opportunity for him. I mean, he's traded away his first round pick the last 2 years, but I think there's a huge opportunity for him to make a trade, get a player who's good and relevant now, and give up one of those picks. But it'll be interesting to see what he does. No matter what he does, he's going to be better for it moving forward after the 2020 draft than he's looking right now. And how he's looking right now is a pretty strong team who's got a chance to compete for the championship.
Absolutely. And like you said, if he packages some of those picks together with a player and goes after one of the current maybe top 10 running back or a top 10 receiver, or a top 5 receiver with some of those picks, you could definitely maybe acquire something like that. So he definitely has the ammunition needed to. He's obviously going to be a competitive team for the next several years, regardless of what happens with the draft picks.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Hackenberger and Fries, we'll just kind of transition here into the Week 4 review. He was one of the games that we spent a lot of time previewing before he was going up against Malf. And don't forget the money, who is also dealing with an injury bug and kind of struggling to find his form early in the year, going in a 1-3 or a 1-2 team against a 0-3 team, and Hackenberger and Fries ends up coming up on top. Gurley didn't get a lot of rushing attempts on the ground, but he came away with 2 touchdowns, which powered Mike. Carson Wentz had a good game, and he was just kind of solid all around. Mike Evans didn't have as big of a game as he did against the Giants, but he scored a touchdown and gave him about 16. Chris Carson, about 16 points. Henry gave him 11. Only really Marlon Mack and O.J. Howard were his 2 duds, but the Patriots defense, who's probably been one of the fantasy MVPs early in the year, gave him 28. Malf on the other side, Chris Godwin had a huge game.
And that's what I was going to say. Yeah, even with Chris Godwin's huge game, still wasn't able to put together. I mean, obviously, 131 as a score is a huge week. So otherwise, if he was playing another team, it definitely could have ended differently for him.
But I think that it just his roster. I mean, you get 35 from one guy, or from Godwin. You get 23 from Adams. You get 18 from Mahomes. You get 16 from Cooks. And when you think about it, it should end up in 14 from Freeman. It should end up in a better result. But you have Preston Williams, who kind of gave you a dud with 6 points. Calvin Ridley gave you a dud with 4 points. Trey Burton gave you a dud with 2 points. And the Jaguars' defense didn't play as well as you thought they would against Denver. So, I mean, it just kind of, I think that just points out, like, the injuries obviously taking a toll on him. Antonio Brown retiring, taking a toll on him, or not retiring, but not being on a team, taking a toll on him. But I think also just the fact that we previewed it earlier, just the depth isn't there right now for him to continue to make this push.
A guy you didn't mention there is Sony Michel, and I know that's one that we keep saying, like, he was first-round pick, like the Patriots were going to use him as the pass-catching back and the kind of the lead back as far as first and second down, and then maybe some use on third down, and he's just really not getting it. They're continuing to use Rex Burkhead. They're continuing to use Brandon Bolden found the end zone. Again, it's kind of the Patriots way. Like, you can't necessarily trust the back to get you more than, and Sony Michel even getting you 6 points. Obviously, you're expecting a lot more from a first-round talent.
Yeah. Yeah, and then talking about the other side of the trade, the Dominators. I thought they might have had this. I thought the NJ Giants were. I thought we were really high on them coming into the week, and at the 4:00 games, things were not looking great. Emmanuel Sanders had 2 big catches at the end of the Denver game that kind of boosted up his total to 12 points. Jared Goff just kept throwing the ball and turning it over, but he still managed to get 25 points. Phil Lindsay started off strong, but didn't really do much after that. And then kind of Fitz had a couple late catches, help him break a record. But really, it looked pretty bleak for him. And then I guess Chicago's defense just kind of took it home. And then Tyler Boyd just didn't have enough on Monday night because Andy Dalton can't play in prime time to save his life to make any sort of run at a comeback.
Yeah, that was a tough game to watch. I don't know if any of you all watched that one, but the Pittsburgh just totally dominated Cincinnati. They didn't look like they belonged out there.
Cincinnati never looks like it belongs in prime time, but then it's like every other week. Cincinnati puts up a dud, and then they're competitive, then they're dudding, then they're competitive. Oh, Will Dissly with a big catch.
Here we go.
30 yards.
Here we go, guys.
Live updates. Going back to a week ago, I had a terrible week, and Tyler pretty handily. I mean, he came up with the highest point total of the week, but he pretty handily beat me by over 100.
We really don't need to spend much time on this.
No, we
Fairbanks Flamingos. We've previewed it in the past. We've talked about his team. He's solid all the way around. Nick Chubb gives him a huge game, 37 points. Christian McCaffrey comes out with another. What he's kind of putting up is these typical numbers, high 20s. Juju kind of let him down this week, but he definitely had the firepower with Wayne Gallman, Steelers defense. Russell Wilson didn't get him as typical, but again, Fairbanks Flamingos is putting up consistent high numbers and is definitely a team that needs to be taken seriously. On his bench, it looks like Jordan Howard put up 31 points.
Mm-hmm.
You're
spending more time on the game than you said you were going to.
Yeah, his depth is really good. I'm very fascinated by the rebuild that he's made over the course of the last year.
Yeah. Tyler Lockett just had an incredible catch in the back of the end zone for a touchdown.
Oh, that's incredible, guys. I missed it. Tyler Lockett. Man, I hope he does this more often because chances are if he gets one in, he doesn't always. I think the likelihood of him getting a 2-touchdown game is very rare, but hopefully this is it, and hopefully he comes up with 3 or 4 touchdowns tonight.
Yeah, probably not going to happen. But you can always hope, right?
One can dream, right?
Yeah. Jets are on the clock, won a nail-biter against Everything Must Go, who did not have the lowest point total this week. Brent, you were given your first loss by Poncho Power.
I have to, yeah. I need to.
We don't need to talk about it.
I don't need to talk about it, but I definitely need to stay more humble. This has taught me that I don't need to be braggadocious on this podcast. I need to kind of stay in my lane, be humble. No. This is the Tyler Lockett piece is all just hopes and dreams. I am hoping now that he gives me that because I know that I am vulnerable. And with this last performance, I had 82 points.
Yeah,
not a good week for me. I outscored
Me and
Nick and you, and that's disappointing.
Yeah. And then dominate. We just talked about Dominators. Did we preview this game? Right?
Backyard Boys.
Yeah, and then Backyard Boys in kind of our other close matchup of the week. I believe I picked Backyard Boys. We'll have to review the tape to see it. But Backyard Boys wins by 8 as he takes down Jarrett. And Jarrett tried to make a run there with James Conner on the Monday night game, giving him 22 points, but still not enough to come back.
And again, Backyard Boys just kind of keep chugging along. Like it's not always pretty, but he's 4-0 now, the only 4-0 team on the year. And
Well, we will preview Backyard Boys when we talk about week 5, because he is actually projected to lose next week.
All right,
and I'm just gonna throw it out here because I don't know if I think I talked about it, but the Dominators lost to NJ Giants. Yeah, I did.
You did. We've talked about that 3 times.
We did.
Now.
All right.
I know you're high on Dominators.
Yeah, just talking about it again. But so let's transition right into week 5. We don't usually spend a lot of time on my matchups because I'm usually about to get blown out. But Melvin Gordon is back from suspension or his holdout,
and may get the start over the number 2 running back in the league right now.
Yeah, and he's got a good matchup against Denver, who just got gashed for 225. Garoppolo's off his bye, so I don't have to start Kyle Allen this week, which is a plus. And I have a lot of favorable matchups. Auden Tate, even he'll get a bump up, but he's playing Arizona. Adam Thielen's playing the Giants. Josh Gordon is playing Washington. Joe Mixon's playing Arizona, so maybe he could have a good game. As I mentioned, Melvin Gordon against Denver. Demarcus Robinson against Indianapolis. I feel like there's a lot of plus matchups here looking my way, and I'm actually projected to beat the 4-0 team by 6 points.
Yeah. That's incredible.
It is.
I'm looking at it now, and it is. This is the first that I've seen of this, but yeah, it's very true. And again, that's obviously you've been putting out. I think Gio Bernard the last several weeks.
Yeah, I think I played Kalen Ballage last week.
Who I've heard Kalen Ballage might be the worst football player in the NFL. I think somebody had that stat. He is legitimately the worst.
He had an 80-yard run last year. He had
one good play in his entire NFL career. But yeah, I mean, you keep going with the 2 tight end stack. Actually, both you and Backyard Boys are going with the 2 tight end stack this week. So it definitely could come down to that. I think Melvin Gordon. Yeah, I like it too.
My tight ends are my strongest part of my team.
I like it too. You had Mark Andrews at one time, and now that is how he's going to be playing against you. And it really comes down to who gets the touches for Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, you have Melvin Gordon going against Austin Eckler here, so we'll kind of see. I don't know if obviously Eckler's probably not going to have the same game that he's been accustomed to this year, with Gordon getting probably more of the touches, but I think Austin Eckler can still be a solid contributor to that team.
Yeah, so it'll definitely be interesting.
Well, you might get yourself a win.
I'm still going to pick Will.
You know what? I'm going to pick you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
I'm gonna go with, I think Melvin Gordon is going to get into the end zone. I think Austin Eckler is going to see a kind of a step back in his targets and his production. So, yeah, I like your roster, and I think you're going to get a victory this week.
Wow. Well, how about that?
And I'd like to see Backyard Boys get knocked off this week.
So that's really where it is. But we're actually just going to end the show now. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Let's just move on down. So Fairbanks Flamingos is facing Dominators. Dominators, with their new and improved roster, is still projected to lose by 18 points. And Russell Wilson is looking pretty good early in this game. Already got 10 points coming down to the end of the first quarter. So Rob is playing the Rams defense, so anything that Russell Wilson does positively will come off against Rob. But yeah, so it's right now it's 16-10. Robert Woods has no catches so far, which is hurting Fairbanks Flamingos. But
again, it's one of those teams that we've already talked about. He keeps putting up these numbers. We'll see if Wayne Gallman contributes as much as he did. He's suffering from I think a neck injury right now. He's been kind of limited at practice, so we'll see if he comes out. But I think this is one that even with the new and improved lineup for Dominators, I think Fairbanks Flamingos is just too tough right now. I think it's just going to be too tough of a task to overcome.
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite on you.
Of course you are.
I guess I'm just
you love this team.
Ride or die with the Dominators. But I like.
No, tell me what you like about it. Tell me what you like about it. Because you are all aboard this hype train of the Dominators
that I've created. I'm so on my own hype train. I like Tyler Boyd against Arizona. I like Tyler Eifert against Arizona. I think that they bounce back after a dismal performance because they're not playing in prime time. I like D.D. Westbrook's usage last week. I thought he was more involved in the game, and I think more of the D.D. Westbrook that we wanted to see coming out of the gate. James White has been involved in pretty much every game in New England in the passing game, much more than I thought he was going to be. I like Phillip Rivers' matchup against Denver, and it simply comes down to the matchups that Tyler's team is facing.
Yeah,
Jacksonville against Christian McCaffrey. I think that's a very it's a very tough matchup there for Christian McCaffrey. I don't doubt that he's still going to put up 20 points like he's projected, but I don't know if it'll be a 35-point Christian McCaffrey week. I think Nick Chubb's getting a little robbed here on his projection for 16. I think he could do a little bit better than that. But Wayne Gallman against Minnesota, I think 11 is a generous projection, especially because they're talking about Barkley possibly playing. Cole Beasley is projected for 8. I don't see Cole Beasley really.
Well, he's really suffering because Christian Kirk hasn't really been performing as well. But Christian Kirk's hurt this week, has been ruled out.
Gone against Baltimore. Montgomery probably has the most plus matchup against Oakland, but Chicago's one of those weird teams that, like, if they get up big and they get up big sometimes and they just don't run the ball because what's working is the pass game. So and then Evan Ingram, who's been huge for Tyler all year, is playing Minnesota. So I feel like there's a chance that Tyler has a down week, and I think that there's a better possibility of Rob putting up his projected points. If he comes up with 119, that might be enough for him to get a victory.
Yeah, and depending on the week and, like you said, the matchups, I think the matchups look pretty good for him. I think it comes down to the quarterback, though, and obviously we're watching this game right now, and Russell Wilson already has 10 points. I think is it just into the second quarter now?
Yeah.
So I think Russell Wilson's going to continue. I think the Rams are going to just put up too many points, and I think Russell Wilson is going to have to kind of fight back and pull one of those Russell Wilson maybe like 25 to 35 point games, and I think that's just going to be too much to overcome for Phillip Rivers, who usually puts up between 18 and 20, 18, 22, something like that, points a week. So I think just having that difference is going to give Fairbanks Flamingos the edge.
Yeah. And then we don't need to spend a long time on this game, but Everything Must Go is playing Poncho Power. I think Poncho Power moves to 4-1. Nick's projected.
Sorry, Nick.
Nick's projected 80 points, so we'll just stay with that.
He has Teddy Bridgewater in the lineup. I don't know if Jameis is going to
put Jameis in there.
I don't know if that's a tank job, Nick, or what, but nobody's accusing anybody of anything. But
sounds like that was an accusation.
But Bridgewater over Jameis Winston at this point in their career, I'm not really sure where you're going with that. I think I would put Sam Darnold in before I put Teddy Bridgewater in. The monoed Sam Darnold before I'd put in the Teddy Bear.
Yeah.
So.
And then let's see. Your game is pretty good, Brent. But you know what? I don't want to end on that one this week.
All right, let's talk about it
now because I don't want to end on it.
Well, obviously, I'm excited about Tyler Lockett's score in this game.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he can continue doing that.
So let's tell everyone who you're going against. You're going against West Coasters, projected to win by 24, almost 25. But that's without a player in West Coasters lineup. So
I'm just noticing that now.
It'll be a lot closer coming towards Sunday morning. But Brandon Cooks right now is putting up a 0, whereas Tyler Lockett has his catch for a touchdown. So that's giving you the early 7-point lead.
Yeah, again, West Coasters, I always kind of look at his team as kind of the golden standard for our league. I hate going against him, obviously. I think the matchups might not be there for him exactly, but obviously Kamara is in a plus matchup against Tampa Bay. He's likely to put up 20 to 25 points. Fournette's coming back, and he's really showing that he's the power back in that offense, getting 225 rushing yards last week. So we'll see what he does against that front four in Carolina. Kyler Murray hasn't really figured out the NFL how to kind of win, lose, that sort of thing yet, or obviously found out how to lose, but he hasn't figured out exactly how to win yet. Well. And he knows how to tie as well. But what he is doing well is putting up numbers, and he has those rushing yards. So he's projected to get 17. He's probably going to finish around there, maybe even a little bit more. Yeah. Julio Jones plus matchup in Houston. Obviously, I think that's just going to be a shootout. We'll see what Brandon Cooks does tonight. Geronimo Allison, you never know what's going to happen in that Green Bay offense, but I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. So Allison could be involved there. The Ravens defense, even going against the Steelers, you still worry about that. On my side, I'm excited. I get Kittle back. Vikings defense is in a plus matchup. DeAndre Hopkins is in a plus matchup.
Daniel Jones? You think that's a plus matchup?
They're going to rack Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones who has he played so far? He's played the Washington Redskins, and he's played
and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who did have a very impressive win, but their defense obviously did not in a 45-40 game or something like that. 55-40 game. Obviously, there wasn't much defense either way on that one. So,
but they did score a couple times.
I think Minnesota's defense is a little bit better than Tampa Bay's defense. So we'll see what happens in that game. But kind of all that said, I'm a little worried about this game. I think I'm worried about Dak Prescott. Obviously, he kind of came back down to earth last week and kind of played a good defense, and he showed kind of what we worry about with Dak Prescott is he's not as consistent, not putting up the numbers, not getting in the end zone.
He's not a good quarterback when Zeke Elliott isn't running the ball at will.
I think
he's
a solid quarterback regardless. I think the play action obviously is his strength, and so if the running game is going and is effective, he's going to be a better quarterback. But he's got to do better, and I think I don't know if it's a plus matchup, but I definitely feel like the Green Bay defense, even though it's good, we saw last week that they, against the Philadelphia Eagles team, that they struggled defensively against Alshon and those guys.
Yeah.
So, but I'm a little worried. Who are you going with there? I think I'm going to go with West Coasters.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe it was you picking my team earlier or something, but I think I'm going to pick you, Brent, and I'm going to pick you solely because of the tight end position on West Coasters. I just don't think that there's that depth that's needed on his roster in that position alone. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna take you.
I appreciate it. I hope it goes that way, but I'm definitely not. I'm not counting on it, but we'll see.
It'll be a close game. It'll be a good game, but I think that both of you guys obviously have the star power that's going to be able to come through and put up big numbers. But I think at the end of the day, when both of you guys have four guys who are going to put up like 20 plus points, if not more, I think the fact that you have a tight end who's going to give you at least 10, and he's got a tight end who can give him 20 because he scores a touchdown, or gives him 0 because he doesn't, or 4 because he doesn't, I think that gives you the advantage.
Sure. All right, let's move into the last game of the week that we're going to preview. That's not correct at all.
We got two games
We have
left.
2 more. Who do you want to go with?
Let's go with the NJ Giants versus Don't Forget the Money. So NJ Giants 3-1 coming into the week. Don't Forget the Money 1-3 coming into the week. Definitely the tale of 2 seasons. One that looked like it was super promising on the side of Don't Forget the Money, which has turned out to be pretty disappointing so far, and one that looked like it might be a bit of a down year for NJ Giants has turned into be a pretty profitable one so far. He's sitting here projected at 147. Malf is projected at 125. Actually, a very similar projection to your game with Jarrett and Preston Williams on his bye. So Malf also needs to fill that. So yeah. So
kind of a live update here. Jared Goff is into the second quarter and has 1 point. So so that's, I mean, obviously we talk about the quarterback matchups and how effective that can be, or if you have a strong quarterback performance, and if you're going against Patrick Mahomes, you better have a good week. So depending on, we're still early in this game, it's supposed to be a high scoring game, but if Jared Goff does struggle in this game, it could be something that bodes really well for Don't Forget the Money.
Yeah. But I do want to point out that Patrick Mahomes is projected 32 points this week. And with that projected 32 points, Malf is still projected to lose by 22 points.
Yep.
So I know Mahomes is playing a weaker Indy team that Derek Carr looked pretty good against, which is pretty embarrassing to say. But maybe they get Leonard back, and I know they had a cornerback out last week, and maybe that changes some things. But I mean, Mahomes can have a pretty big week, but 32 points is something that is going to be a tough feat. I think the biggest thing for me with Malf in this matchup, well, I don't know why Adams only projected for 8.
So I'll tell you, because Adams has turf toe, and he got turf toe in the Philadelphia game last week that we were watching. He ended that game obviously with a huge game, but he went out in the fourth quarter, and so a lot of people are even projecting him not to play right now. So it'll be depending on, and that's what I was going to say, is if Devontae Adams doesn't start for Don't Forget the Money, that is obviously going to be a real hindrance for his team moving forward.
And Mike Williams was out last week, so potentially he returns this week. Devin Singletary was out last week. Potentially he returns this week. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how this all shakes out. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to Sony Michel, Devontae Freeman, and whether Devontae Adams plays.
Yeah.
So
we didn't talk about this earlier, but and I want to get to your pick, but Dalvin Cook, Minnesota Vikings, obviously the news this week kind of broke that not only is Thielen upset and frustrated with the way that they're kind of playing football this year, but now Stephon Diggs there's rumors about a trade. There's rumors about, is he happy? Is he frustrated? What's going on with that?
Well, I think that there's also the rumor, but I think that Adam Thielen isn't necessarily upset with the play calling as much as he's upset with the play of his quarterback. Because he did make a couple comments about how someone said, like, it was tough to move out there, wasn't it? And he said, I didn't feel that way. And he made another comment about, like, there was space deep, but someone's got to throw it there.
I think he's challenging Cousins, absolutely. But I guess what I'm saying to specifically, like, preview this game is how much is Cousins going to let that and the play calling and Mike Zimmerman, like, or Zimmer, whatever his name is, how much are they going to let the play calling kind of affect that? So Dalvin Cook is one of these backs that obviously has been just, I mean, I don't know how many carries he gets a game, but I think they're throwing like 18 times, maybe less than 20 times I think they're averaging week to week. So figuring out and going against the New York Giants defense that kind of ranks pretty low in the league as far as points given up, as far as
terrible against the pass.
Yeah, terrible against the pass.
Just run to the middle of the field.
So we will see if Dalvin Cook can be an effective running back this week, or if Minnesota tries to go a little bit different and involves their two highly paid receivers in Thielen and Diggs.
Yeah. And then just on NJ Giants' side, he's got Goff playing tonight, but then Ingram against Pittsburgh, Lindsey against the Los Angeles Chargers, Chris Thompson against New England in a matchup where they're probably going to be down and need to throw, and potentially a rookie quarterback who should definitely use his safety valve. Sterling Shepard against Minnesota, Larry Fitzgerald against Cincinnati, Emmanuel Sanders against LAC. Beckham against San Francisco on Monday night, Kelsey against Indianapolis on Sunday night. So that that bodes well for NJ Giants to have Kelsey. So if Mahomes is going to have a big game, but Kelsey's going to catch 2 of the 4 touchdowns he throws, it's definitely going to, it's going to hinder how much. Don't forget the money is really going to be able to go ahead because of that. And then he's got Bears defense against Oakland in London. I'll take that. So yep. I think NJ Giants comes away. I think he moves to 4-1, dropping. Don't forget the money to 1-4. Who's just having a tough time with injury and consistency and depth.
Yeah. And I think, depending on, obviously, we're watching this game live, so Jared Goff, if he doesn't rebound, I think Don't Forget the Money has a much better shot. But kind of thinking about if Jared Goff even finishes with, 20 points, I think that the NJ Giants are gonna pull out the victory here. I think it'll be close, but I think they'll get the victory.
Then we start the show talking about Hackenberger and Fries with his recent trade, and then we end the show talking about Hackenberger and Fries with his matchup this week against the Jets are on the clock.
Getting Carson Wentz in that trade is, I think, obviously it kind of was pretty profitable for him last week, and I think it's going to continue to kind of pay off this week with a kind of a plus matchup against the New York Jets.
Mm-hmm. And Gurley and Carson are playing right now. Currently, Mike's up 5.7 to 0, but I don't know. I think that the projections are 135 to 118, kind of just under what's a 17-point spread. I don't know. I kind of see it. I see the big factors this week. Le'Veon Bell against Pittsburgh or against Philadelphia, because Philadelphia can't protect the pass, but is really good against the run. But Bell has been involved in the passing game. Mm-hmm. Josh Jacobs has a tough matchup against Chicago. Ronald Jones has a tough matchup against New Orleans. McCole Hardman's going against Indianapolis. Keenan Allen's playing Denver. Chris Harris is a good corner. I think it's going to come down to Lamar Jackson. I think if Lamar Jackson puts up a big week, then the Jets are on the clock has a chance. But otherwise, it's just a lot of negative matchups and potentially negative game scripts that I think hurts a lot of his team. Live update the Lockett catch.
Yeah, Lockett running around there, just finding the space, and Russell Wilson making a play. Tyler Lockett gets about a 20-yard, 25-yard gain there.
Clay Matthews showing why he should rush the passer every play.
Or maybe be out of the league. Who knows? But going back to the Lamar Jackson, Jets are on the clock, obviously have benefited from Lamar Jackson just going off at the start of this year. But I think this is another game, and I said this last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember when, that Lamar Jackson's going to kind of come back down to earth. He obviously continues to play, and he's very effective. I think he's going against a Pitt secondary that's probably the best part of their defense. Obviously, getting Minkah Fitzpatrick just to kind of bolster that squad. So I don't know if we're going to see that those deep balls that Lamar Jackson loves to throw to Marquise Brown or those guys. I don't know if we're going to see those as are as effective this week. So
I think you've been watching the Bengals offense play in primetime a little too much, Brent. I think Pittsburgh's got a good defense, and I think that in this kind of rivalry matchup type game, I think that there's a really good chance that he struggles and it's kind of a low scoring affair. But with Mason Rudolph on the other side, I think that bodes really well for the Ravens to bounce back after they struggled against the Browns. Even though it's in Pittsburgh, I think that Lamar Jackson in that offense just comes out pretty hot, and it's some person that's not in his lineup right now that probably could find his way into the lineup is Terry McLaurin if he comes back. Mm-hmm. I know New England's defense is playing really well, but if they're playing from behind,
McLaurin's going to get his looks, and he's going to be able to capitalize on some of that and maybe find the end zone.
Well, he's got good chemistry with Case Keenum, and now throw him in there with with Dwayne Haskins, who he went to college with.
Or Colt McCoy. I don't know. You were saying Dwayne Haskins. I don't think that Washington can risk putting Haskins out there against the New England Patriots defense. I just think it's too tough of a matchup. You're not putting him in any good situation. You have to get this rookie off to feeling kind of confident and kind of building that.
Or he'll just be Josh Rosen.
Yes, exactly. And I think Josh Rosen has. I think the systems that he's been in have destroyed his potential.
But you know what?
I think he's a solid quarterback, and I don't know if he's going to get the chances because of the systems that he's been in.
I feel like Josh Rosen had put up a pretty competitive game against Dallas. The score might not show it, but when I was watching Red Zone that day, every time Dallas had the ball, obviously they were in the red zone, but every time the Dolphins had the ball, they were moving the ball. They just, Drake had a red zone fumble and they settled for a couple field goals. They missed a couple field goals, which could have increased his production that day. And then against, the Chargers, who are a really good, DK Metcalf into the end zone. I think that goes against the Dominators this week because he didn't play DK Metcalf.
Dominators, I told you, he has them on the taxi squad still.
Yeah.
So he is not yet graduated to his roster, which we've talked about the receiver depth and how that's an issue. So maybe that's something moving forward that Dominators chooses to kind of put him in the lineup.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I feel like that matchup goes towards Hackenberger and Fries. I think Jets on the clock is going to put up a good effort, but I think Hackenberger and Fries kind of caught some rhythm last week, and I think they're going to continue to kind of propel themselves and kind of get back on track. And I think Hackenberger and Fries is going to give Jets on the clock their second loss of the year.
I agree with that. And I think it's one thing to watch moving forward. Jets are on the clock. They were 3-0 last week. They lost week 4, and I don't think they won again the rest of the year. 3-1 this year. Tough matchup this week. Things aren't going to get easier in this league when you're not you, Tyler, Mike, Jarrett, Will. You've got 5 teams who are top of the league, and then you've got guys like NJ Giants, and you've got guys like Don't Forget the Money, and apparently me, who are projected for in the 140s. Just so I think that, there's not a lot of easy games moving forward. And John got his win against Nick, which means that I guess they are in the same division, though. So no, they're not in the same division.
They're not.
So that's a win that he's not going to have come back around anytime soon. And then you got guys like NJ Giants, did I say his name already, who are putting up pretty big scores. So I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be something interesting to watch because Jets are on the clock, gets off so hot every year, and then New England starts to shift from that pass-heavy team to that run-heavy team, and he kind of falls apart after that.
Yep.
But that was when he had Amendola and Gronkowski and Deion Lewis and Tom Brady.
Yep, he's definitely went away from those guys. He still has Brady on the bench, but again, he's kind of found something here in Lamar Jackson, and we'll see if he continues to play as well as he has been. But I think this week he kind of goes down and goes to 3-2. So
yeah, that's definitely fair. All right, well, I guess that's all of our previews today. We kind of did a little bit of our buy and sell when we talked about the trade that happened this week. I think as we move forward in this, and see kind of what the records are and see if teams get closer or start to fall behind, we're going to start maybe doing a little bit more buy or sell, maybe putting ourselves in your guys' shoes. However, we don't really want to tell you guys how to manage your team, so that's kind of the dilemma that Brent and I are struggling with right now.
Yeah, if y'all have any feedback, give it to us because we want to make sure that we're giving our opinions but not telling you all exactly what we would do and that sort of thing. So anyways, I like the concept of buy or sell. If you have any feedback for us, let us know. Also, we'd like to get you all on, maybe talking about like kind of mid-season, where teams are at, that sort of thing. So Gerard and I will continue to be talking about kind of what we want to see with this podcast and kind of moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So, thanks for the listen, and we'll talk to you guys later.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you for listening to Tonight We Dyn Nasty. If you enjoyed our content, be sure to like and share with your friends. If you have any suggestions for us to talk about in our future fantasy endeavors, please leave a comment below and we'll be sure to talk about it.